All right, we're back. It is COMP125, and it is client-side web development in the summer 2016 semester, and it is week 5, part 1 of our broadcast. What we're talking about today mostly is the DOM in more detail, so document object model. We're also going to be starting talking about the BOM, and I'm not talking about like the nuclear bomb, BOM as in browser object model, right? And also, there's going to be a little lab that I've already put up on eCentennial that I want you guys to do for Friday, which is a new tool you're going to be taking a look at this week called Bauer, B-O-W-E-R, right? And we're also going to learn how to use web fonts and incorporate web fonts inside of our application properly, right? So we're going to talk about those things. Your lab is up on eCentennial already. And again, it's due Friday at midnight, right? And it's all around trying to get you guys to use command line a little bit more, because I know some people are afraid to use command line. They use Visual Studio or something else. And so I got to give you a lab to try and draw you away from using things like Visual Studio only, right? There's different ways of doing it with Visual Studio that if you want to download stuff. But one of the problems that we have is we've been hand downloading everything, which is a pain in the you-know-what, right? We don't want to download everything by hand all the time, especially when there's a lot of modules. So how would we do it in a professional environment? We're going to talk about that today. Okay. So those are a few things we're going to talk about. Your PowerPoints are up on eCentennial already. So if you want to look there, we're going to be talking about, let's go to courses for a second. So we're going to be talking about, again, we're in week 5. Here's your PowerPoint. It's all around, it's huge. It's massive. It's all around working with the document object model, the DOM. It says DHTML, but really it's really around the DOM and the BOM, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about. Really as an objectives perspective, we've already talked about how to connect to or reference different elements on the page with document.getElementById. We keep doing that. We haven't talked about document object model too much though, and every time we use the word document, we're accessing the document model, right? So we'll talk about that. And then not just by ID, but you should be able to access things by tag name, other options, by class name, by selector. There's different ways of accessing or making references on your HTML page with JavaScript. Joanna, you still sick? Jesus, my fault. Now it's my fault, right? We also want to know how to add and remove document nodes. So we're going to talk about this week, right? How do I add a node, a whole node, right? Like actually create content with JavaScript. And how to create and close new browser tabs in Windows. By the way, sometimes this will not work, depending on the security level of your browser. And Chrome is notorious for blocking things like this, right? But we're going to talk about it, right? And that's where we're going to start. But when we talk about the stuff about this week. So this week's all around the DOM and the BOM and all that kind of stuff. How do we use timeouts and intervals? If I want to create a countdown or something like that, we'll talk about this. And then the 3 objects that 4 objects, people don't use it so much, which is history, location, navigation, and screen. These objects you have access to with your JavaScript as well. And there's a lot of built-in classes, right? So there's objects that have already been built in, and there's built-in objects and methods to access these classes. We're going to learn how to do that, and what's the advantages of using them. And they're used throughout JavaScript, especially when it comes to custom work that we'll be creating. As we go with this course, we're going to get more object intensive. I'm not going to say object-oriented because JavaScript is not object-oriented language, although we use objects. It's more prototypal. So we make a prototype, like with a function, and then what we do is we can create other functions from that prototype, similar to classes and objects. So we're going to talk about these differences and so on as we go in the course. So those things, we want to talk about these differences. But first, let's do our little part of our lab. So if you follow me here, this is going to be helping you with your lab number 3, which is Bauer and so on. So we already have some material we've been using, lesson 4. I'm just going to duplicate this like we've done in the past. So I'm going to duplicate. You can copy and paste as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new lesson, lesson 5, right? And with lesson 5, I'm also going to go in there, and I'm just going to bring up my terminal for a second. Here's my terminal screen. And see tips of the day. No, I don't want to see tips of the day. And then, you know, kind of, I'm going to go CD, and then I'm going to kind of go to that particular folder for a second before I open it up with Visual Studio Code. And let's take a look again. If I go ls-al on the Mac or on a Linux machine, you can see that I've got the .git folder that I got to get rid of. So I'm going to remove -rf, right? And then it's .git. So that's gone. See, it's gone now. So no more Git repository. And if you're on a Windows machine, then what you want to have to do is when you're creating your repository, and let me show you this. So I'm just going to drag and drop stuff onto the Windows machine here, right? So you know, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to here, since you're using Windows. I'm going to grab lesson 4 and show you how to do that on the Windows machine. So copy it because it's important this day. Here's lesson 4 on the Windows that we had before. I'm just going to fire it up here on the desktop. I'll put it in another folder called COMP125 when my Windows installation decides to work. So we'll say COMP125. There it is. So inside my COMP125 folder. Come on, Windows, fire up. What I want to do is, yeah, as soon as it wakes up, I'm going to drag and drop my folder in here, and then I'll let that do what it's going to do. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll kind of kill the .git folder, right? Okay, for those of you who are still watching me and you're not a Windows user, or if you're a person who can work with a command line, that's fine. We can pull up Visual Studio Code while I wait for Windows to finish. And what I want to do here is I want to kind of drag and drop our COMP125 lesson 5 we just created into Visual Studio Code. Right now, we're going to talk about some stuff we're going to get rid of, because if you remember, we have this template that we've been using with Visual Studio Code, and one of the challenges that we have is under scripts, I've downloaded Bootstrap, Jquery, and Font Awesome by hand, which is a pain in the you know what, right? I can't do that every time. It doesn't make any sense when I create a project. And when I might have other things I'm going to download, and for me to go up online, download it, and everything, it's not the modern way, right? There we go. See if it worked. Yay. Okay, this worked now. I want to go just grab, so I can show you in Windows. In Windows, if you're a Windows user, if I copy up COMP125 and go here, lesson 4, and if I paste it, here's my lesson 4, and I'll do the same thing with your command prompt. So here's my command prompt, right? As an example, I'll go CD on my command prompt, and I'll drag and drop lesson 4 in here. You can see it works the same way, right? If I do a dir, right, you can see that I also see the .git folder. There's the .git folder, right? So even if I can't see it, it's there. Now I can see it because I've exposed my my folder options in Control Panel on Windows. I'm just going to go here and just delete it. This is the best way to do that. So if I just do this properly, again, just delete. And you notice it goes away. So now I don't have my .git folder, right? I'm doing this in Windows and both in Windows and Mac because we're going to do another installation today. And I want to make sure you guys can do both things. Okay. So again, what I've got here is in my Visual Studio Code, for a second, I've got this extra stuff in here, and I want you to get rid of it. I want you to kill all the Bootstrap stuff and the Jquery. We're going to download it again, but we're going to put it in a different, back in a different way. Remember how long it took to download it, install it, position it in the right place, all this kind of stuff takes a long time, right? I don't want to be doing that for the rest of the semester. So when I download and install new stuff, so what I'm going to do is inside the folder. So I'm looking at the scripts folder. I'm going to go to the actual the operating system here. So here's lesson 5, right? And I'm going to go into my content folder, and you're going to like scream when you see me do this. I'm going to kill my CSS and my fonts folder, right, inside my content. So kill CSS and fonts. Don't get rid of anything else, please. So we're just going to get rid of this. Bye-bye. And under assets, I'm not going to kill anything. Scripts, I also want to get rid of some stuff. All the stuff with Bootstrap in it and Jquery, that's going to be gone. So I'm going to get rid of all this. This is part of your lab, and if you're smart, you name your project COMP125 Lab 3, right? Because Lab 3 is going to be due this Friday. So do what I'm doing, name it Lab 3, and you're good to go, right? It's a good start for you guys. By the way, some people still don't hand in their labs. I've got a bunch of people who don't hand in the labs, even though we do it in class together, right? It's amazing. Amazing. I love it. Okay. So I've got this empty. Now on the Windows side, it'd be the same thing. I'll go into my content. Under content, I want to kill all the stuff that I've got in here, other than apps.css. Leave that app.css alone, right? So you don't want to kill that. That's just your custom CSS, right? So that's one thing. And then you want to get rid of, under scripts, you want to get rid of all this except for your app.js. You leave your app.js there because that we need, right? So we can prepare you for everything else. Okay, cool. All right. So what I'm asking for today, if you look at your windows, let me just make this a little larger for you guys so you can see it. So I'm going to go to properties here. And I'm going to choose Lucinda console. We're going to go for a larger font size. Let's say 18. Let's see if we can do that. Woohoo! Yeah, you can see it better there. So this is your command prompt now. And on Windows, you need to do CLS to kind of go to command prompt. If I can't do this, right, npm, and then press enter, if you can't do that and you don't get this response, your npm is not installed properly, right? So that means even if you downloaded Node, and by the way, if I was to look at the version, I'm going to do a CLS again. If on Windows, if I go npm minus version, right, I should be, my version is 3.8.9. So yours are probably around there because they keep on, every week, they almost have a little update, right? My Node version, by the way, as of this recording, is minus version. If I go Node minus version, you can see that my Node version is 6.1.0. By the way, they're way beyond this. This is a 6.2.1 or something like that right now. Let's take a look. So where do I get Node if you don't have Node? If you didn't follow my instructions from like the first day, which is get Node and get this and get that, today is the day you're going to get, you're going to get bit for this one, right? Because you need to do this. So where do I get it? Node.js. If I go Node.js, and if I click up here, and again, I'm recording all this so you can find it. Here's 6.2.1. This is LTS, the long-term support version, okay? You don't want to get this one. It's stable, but I want to get, we're developers. We're going to use this one, which is the 6.2.1 current version, right? Now, if I already have Node installed, which I do, right? I'm going to download this one to see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see how I can mess myself up. Let's just see, right? I'm going to download the current version of Node. There we are. And if you're a Windows user, it's going to take you some time. It's 11 megs, it looks like, that I'm downloading. There we go. Let's see when I'm ready yet. So we'll do the installation together if you're a Windows user. On the Mac, I'm not going to do the installation because there's other steps I need to take, and most of you are not Mac users. Okay, let's click this right now. Notice that I get through this little wizard. By the way, this will not be enough to make your Node work at all. This is just the first piece, right? Next, click this accept piece. Next, see where it says? It's going to put things under Node.js. This is key because this is where we're going to look when we add this Node.js to our environment variables, right, in Windows 10. If you don't do this properly, you'll never use Node. And we need to use Node as a tool right now. We're not using Node to create a back-end server or anything like that. That's not what we're going to do, right? Not in this class. But it's good to have Node as a tool set that we're going to use in the background, especially if you're a new modern web developer. That's the way we do it. Next. I'm going to install everything here, so you see that there's nothing that I haven't done. And one of them is, look, it even says, hey, add Node to the path with npm modules and blah, blah, blah. By the way, it won't matter even if you do this, right? It still won't work properly, right? But leave everything the same. Go next. And install. It's going to go through. By the way, it's good to have your command prompts closed. Otherwise, won't take, right? So I have all your command lines, command prompts. It's going to ask me for a permission. I'm going to say yes. And it's going to go grab the package that we just downloaded, that 11 megs, and install all the files that are required inside your Node.js directory under your program files. Okay? Please do this with me so that we're all on the same page. If you do this part, that's part of it done for lab 3, right? Can't do lab 3 unless you have Node, right? So trying to get this with you guys with you, right? So it's there's no issues. You can see that it's removing some old files because I already have Node installed. So it's going to take out my old stuff, put some new stuff. It's not going to hurt me to do this kind of stuff, and I can always fix the installation even if it craps out, right? So don't worry about it. Follow the instructions here, and you'll get the latest version. So what is Node anyway? Node is a way that we can use. There's two reasons for Node. One is we can use it as an alternative back-end server technologies. Nowadays, we can use JavaScript not just on the front end, but also on the back end, like I said earlier, right? So we can use JavaScript instead of PHP, right? Instead of ASP.NET, if you're an ASP.NET person. We can use JavaScript all over the place now. Before, this wasn't possible. Now, with most modern installations, we're moving towards a Node.js environment on the back end, right? Now, we'll be covering Node.js, not in this class, because we don't have a chance to do that in this class. It's out of scope for the back end, but we will be covering it in a course called COMP125. That's Emerging Technologies. And there's different ways to do Node.js. You can certainly do it with Visual Studio Code, or sorry, Visual Studio. We're not going to be doing it with Visual Studio, however. If you're with me, you'll be doing it with command line, and other people might do in other ways. Okay, so we've got everything installed. Let's check to see if our installation works. I'm going to bring up my command line again. So here's my command prompt, and I'm going to go npm ---- version. If everything goes well, I still have 3.8 by 9. Uh-oh. How about my node ---- version? 6.2.1. That's good. That's a good thing, right? 6.2.1 is the latest version, and I have access to it here. If you don't have access to it here like me, what do you do to fix it? Well, you got to go down. If you're a Windows 10 user or Windows 8, Windows 7, once you hit your little start button down here, you start typing advanced. And if you notice, if I start typing advanced, I get view advanced system settings. That's the one I want on control panel. Do this with me, guys and girls, and you'll fix your problems forever. Don't do this with me, guys and girls. You'll have always a problem from now and forever with Node and with GitHub, the same way you fix GitHub. All right, when I click on this thing, you can see that I'm getting this other little dialog box called System Properties, right? System Properties. What I want to do here is I want to click on Environment Variables. This environment variables want to hit right here, right? All right. Notice that I have to close down. I cannot have this open. This command prompt cannot be open while I'm making these changes. If I do, what's going to happen is I'm going to mess up my command prompt. Here's what not to do. Don't erase anything that's in here, okay? Never, ever, ever erase the stuff. This would be very bad, all right? And remember, the reason why when we use this environment variable stuff, there's two of them. There's one up here, which is variables for your name, your user, and there's system variables down here. The safest thing to do is to do both, all right? So here's my path up here, and there's a little path down here. Both of those paths have to be modified in order for you to make it work properly, to ensure that it's going to work properly. All right, other things to note is you need to know the path. So what is the path that I'm going to add in here? How do I do that? Well, here's my Windows Explorer or File Explorer if you're using Windows 10. I'm going to go to my installation here. So I'm going to go to what I want to see is my C drive. So this PC. I'm going to click on my C drive. I'm going to go to Program Files, not Program Files x86, Program Files, right? Under Program Files, I'm going to scroll down until I see Node.js. And notice that I can see npm, right, and Node right here. Node modules in here is where I have all my global Node modules that I'm going to be adding in here, all right? So we don't need that, but I do need to access this folder. Well, okay, so I want to get this in there. So the right way to do it, the fast way to do it is right-click on this line right here, right? And then copy address as text. When I do copy address as text, I have my address in on my clipboard. And then I can go back to my path, double-click, right? And you can see there's a long line of different paths in Windows 10. In Windows 7, just one line. You would just see one line. But what I want to do is I want to go in here and install, if I don't already have it in here. Now, I do. Node, you can see there's a lot of stuff I've installed. Node.js is right here. Notice the path is right here. Okay, but you want to add Node.js by clicking New, right? And actually right-clicking and clicking Paste. And that Node.js path, this one here, will go into your path variable up here. Now, I don't need it, so I'm just going to delete this, right? And then the same thing goes with your path. That was this one. You have to do this one too, path, right? So again, I'm going to go all the way down, right? And notice that I want to see if Node.js is installed here, right? There it is, by the way. It's the last one, right? But you do the same thing. You go New, and you put your Node.js in there, and then press OK. Once you've pressed OK twice, you press OK here, right? Press OK here. and then test it immediately in your command prompt. Sometimes you need a reboot, right? But you should be able to do something like this now. You should be able to say node ---- version. If you can't do this, please watch the video. I just showed you how to do it. That is the way to do it, okay? Once your node is working and you have node and npm working on our command line, from here, what you can totally do is do all the things we're going to do now in this course, right? For the second half, right? Now we're sitting at week 5. I'm going to be accessing npm and node regularly in stuff that we're going to be doing over the course of weeks, right? Not because I'm running a node server, but because I want to test some stuff out. Also, I want to test locally sometimes, and some of the things we're going to be doing with Ajax later on in the course, we need a live server to test locally with, here. So there's some stuff I want you to install. Here's something I want you to try. By the way, there's 2 ways of doing things. You can install node package modules, right? So when I go npm stands for the node package manager. It's a way of grabbing modules from the internet and installing them and adding components into your installation. That's what we do with node, okay? So I want to add one so we can run a little local server, okay? And the local server I'm going to run is called http-server. And by the way, if you ever want to know where all these node modules are coming from, you can always go to npm. If you just type npm on the Google search, you can go here. As an example, you can see npm allows us to, kind of grab and download different packages. So I want to find an HTTP server. That's the one I want. You type in HTTP server. HTTP server is there's different ones. There's tiny HTTP server. There's static HTTP server. And there's also HTTP-server. And as you notice, these are the different ones. Here's one right down here. One thing to note, all right, and this is something you have to think about as well, is how many downloads did you have in the last day? When you look at a node package, if the downloads are in the thousands, like if it's only like 10 downloads, don't download that npm package because this is put up by the community, right? So if you try and find some kind of component that you want to download, right? This would be very bad if you had only a few downloads here. But look, it gives you instructions on how to download this little package, this component. I want to download a little server that I want to run on the command line, right? Notice that npm install, this is the command. Install is the command to install new packages. What package you're installing is next, HTTP server, which is this package. And then a little switch. This little switch -g or -global installs whatever package you're getting in the global namespace. So I can use it on any command prompt in any project, right? If I don't put this little switch in, it's only going to go into my project, my one project. If I want it to be installed everywhere, it's got to go -g for globally. All right, so let me test this out with you guys so we can do our first npm installation. Here's how we're going to do it. And if you've got npm working right now, who does not have npm working on their command line? Got to fix that, man. Huh? And are you using the lab computer? Still doesn't work even after I just showed you all this stuff? Huh?
It doesn't work. The environments are blocked.
Yeah, I know. So but Node should be working. Node should be. Do you see Node at all working on the command line? Try it, because I've asked them to install Node.
What command do you want to check?
Command line. We'll go to command prompt and just type in Node. Node space minus version. I'll go in a sec. I'll go there in a second if you. All right, so you don't have it. Yes. Okay, so if you have it working, and if you don't have it working, we'll talk about it afterwards. But if you're on a PC and you've made it work, you should be able to do something like this. So watch the video if you can make it work today, right? npm install http-server. So again, npm is the node package manager. I'm using the install command. And then http server is the package I want to get, space -g for global. I want to install it in the global namespace. And press enter. If your npm works, it'll go out, grab everything on the command line, so it goes to the internet, and then download and install everything. Now I've got HTTP server, which I can run locally. And if I was to run this thing, so I'm going to go clear. Here's on Windows, HTTP server, I can do one of these. It's going to be a little server that runs on 8080. And actually serve up your files locally, right? We're going to use this server because sometimes we need a live server to serve up our files, especially when we do Ajax. Can't just double-click your file and see it works. And also, it simulates some problems you might get on Azure before you go on Azure, right? let's stop this thing. Control C to stop. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here on my my Mac computer here. So here's my Mac side, and notice that my version is lower, right? So if I go npm minus version, you can see that I got 3.8.9. But if I go node minus version, right, I've got 6.1.0. Why am I not going to install this here? Because on the Mac, if I don't want to use sudo, right, then I can't go onto the website and just download it. I need to use something called homebrew. I'm going to kind of show you. There's a special way of installing Node on the Mac using homebrew. So if you do a homebrew install, npm and Node, here it is. And the reason why is because this will take away, on a Mac, it'll take away user permissions, so you don't have to go sudo space npm and then the stuff, and then put in your password every time. Otherwise, you have to put in your password every time you do your installation. You have to put your password over and over again. For me, it's a pain in you know what, so I don't do that. I want to use a homebrew installation. So I'm not going to upload it or whatever, or upgrade it right now. I'll do it another day. Right, so you'll see that this is upgraded later. But for my purposes, I can still do something like this, just to show you. So I can go npm just on the Mac. So I'll show you the command one more time, http-server, right? And then I want to install it, of course. I forgot the install command, which is important. You know install command, no HTTP server. So this is the first one we're doing. -G for global, and then it's going to go through, grab everything just like we saw on the PC side, and install everything. Okay, so that's the HTTP server. Okay. So that's how you install stuff globally, right? I also want you to install stuff. I need Bauer installed globally. What is Bauer, right? Because I'm going to get you to do this too. So here's Bauer. And if you go to bauer.io, you can see that Bauer is a package manager for the web. Now, by the way, this is only one package manager. You can always also do the same stuff we're going to do today with NPM. You don't have to do it with Bauer. But Bauer is a very popular package manager. It's not a bundler, and nowadays we're getting some stuff coming up when we have different package bundlers for the web that is different than how Bauer does stuff. Bauer grabs stuff individually and installs different packages, and this is your install for Bauer. So same idea. We're going to install Bauer globally. So we're going to do this thing. It tells you on this package how to install it. So npm install -G Bauer. Let's try it. By the way, you can see that the switch can go anywhere, where it's after the install or after the name of the package. Doesn't really matter. The -G switch has to be there. So let's do that. So npm, hold on, install -G Bauer, and you can see it goes out, grabs everything, and installs it. There we are. We're at 1.7.9. Let's do the same thing on the PC side, right, to show you that. So I'm going to just clear screen. So again, npm install -G and Bauer. And then it's going to grab Bauer and install it locally, yes. You can uninstall. Install, uninstall. If you want to know what the package commands are, and see how this is, oh, here's something I got to show you. See how this is pausing like this? Right, sometimes you'll get this happening where there's too many people trying to do it at the same time. If you Control C and stop the job, it's a batch job that's running, right? You just do it again. Right, so if I go up, my job was kind of pause like this. See how it's kind of pausing because it's like everyone's trying to do it at the same time over here in this class, right? And if it pauses like this, it's okay. It just means there's a lot of people accessing it. Sometimes it will complete, sometimes it will not, just because we're here at the school. Your ports are blocked sometimes, those kind of things. And Bauer won't allow you to install stuff. It's okay. I'm just gonna wait, and you have to be very patient with this kind of stuff because again, we're talking about open source tools, right? Oh yeah, it's my Bauer installation is just lovely today on the PC side. Oh, I can't believe it. And as long as this keeps moving like this, you can see how it's unzipping or extracting Bauer. Let it do its job, right? Let's do what its extraction is going to do, right? And sometimes it takes a few moments on the PC. When it stops like this, though, this is where I kind of go, something's not right. It's not working. But if you're like me and you've got it working and you've installed Bauer, you should be able to see Bauer 1.7.9. That's the latest version of Bauer as of this recording, right? And you can see that it finished here on the PC as well, 1.7.9. I should be able to do Bauer install now if I wanted to. Okay, so what is Bauer? Bauer is a package manager as well, just like NPM. But NPM gets modules to use with Node, typically, right? So if I was going to make a Node server from scratch, like similar to a PHP server or a more of an Apache server, kind of thing, or an IIS server, if I want to make my own server, I could do that with Node, right? I can make my own server, and Azure actually supports that. If you want to make your own kind of a Node installation for your files instead of using IIS, for Internet Information Services, or like for ASP.NET, or Apache, right, which is used broadly for things like Linux installations and so on, right? Because Apache, the three stacks that we have today are Apache, MySQL, PHP. That's a very popular stack. In fact, a lot of stuff is out there like that, especially if you're making something with WordPress. It's an Apache, MySQL, PHP, or the AMP stacks. AMP, LAMP, MAMP, WAMP, ZAMP, whatever. All those ones are out there like that. There's a ton of different ones, different versions, different flavors, but they're out there for Apache, MySQL, and PHP, right? Then there's the ASP.NET stack, which is IIS, which is the server, ASP.NET, which is your application server, and SQL, which is, instead of like Microsoft SQL, which is the, full-blown enterprise-level SQL server, right? That's that stack. Then there's the Node stack, which is now called the mean stack, right? Or full stack, if you will, which uses MongoDB, Express, Angular, and Node. That's that stack. And that's the most popular, most modern stack that's kind of on the rise. People also add things like React.js and so on. But those are the three different stacks that you can use to build a whole server for web services. Okay, we're not going to do that. I'm just talking about it so you know. But we need these tools. We need things like Bauer and NPM. NPM takes care of things for Node. Bauer takes care of things for front-end dependencies like Jquery and Bootstrap and Font Awesome and all those things that we've been using all this time. So instead of us going to download things by hand, we can do things with Bauer. Let's do it with Bauer. Okay, so we've got Bauer installed. And if you don't have Bauer installed, please follow the videos to get them ready to go, right? And I'm just going to kind of notice I'm in lesson 5 right now, right? So I'm going to clear, right? I'm in lesson 5. I'm going to do the same thing on over here. And how do I do that in lesson 5? Well, I got to bring up my, I can kill this for now. I've got my lesson 5 under my COMP125 folder, right? So here's my COMP125 folder. Here's lesson 4. I've killed it. I'm gonna rename this thing. Different ways to do that. Rename this thing as lesson 5, right? And remember also what I did when I renamed this thing or when I made it. I took out all the files I didn't need here, right? I took out, JavaScript, some JavaScript files and so on. I'll wait till this thing loads up. What you need to do is when in your installation, you can see under my scripts folder now, I don't have anything and so on, but I want to access everything. I want to have all the stuff that I had before back and working. Right? I'm just going to kind of, minimize this stuff here because I don't need it. All right, how do I do this? Right, well, in my command prompt, I type the following. First of all, I need to do one more thing, one change. And by the way, if you look on your lab, it tells you to add in the instructions something called a Bauer RC file inside your project. All right, so I'm going to do that here. I'm going to just go down here inside your project. I'm going to go new file, and it's .Bauer RC. Okay, .Bauer RC. What Bauer RC is a configuration file for Bauer. I'm going to tell Bauer where to install everything. That's what I'm doing with the configuration file, and it takes the form of a JSON file. So I'm going to put it in curly braces. That's what I do. I type in. If I start typing directory in Visual Studio Code, you can see that I get, if I press tab, I get a shortcut that shows me I want to choose the directory where everything is going to be installed. By default, Bauer, the package manager, goes out to the internet, grabs everything you need, and installs it inside something called Bauer components. That's where it puts everything. I don't want that because that means everything I put in is going to be like C:/Bauer components /scripts/ it's too long, right? So I want it to go into my scripts folder. Everything is going to go into my scripts folder. So I got to rename this. So it's going to go scripts lib. This is where I want it to go. Please do this because this is going to satisfy one of your requirements for Lab 3, right? Okay, now that I've got my Bauer RC file and it's here, let's do it on the Windows side to give you another chance to see that. So here's my lesson 5. I've got my Visual Studio Code on Windows. And I'm going to just drag and drop here on Windows so you can see the same thing. So you can see that it's exactly the same thing. So here's my Visual Studio Code in Windows, and I'm going to right-click here, and I'm going to do a new file, and we're going to call it Bauer RC. So you see it the second time, right? So again, I'm going to do the same thing with my directory, and just change this to scripts lib. Okay, that's what I'm doing here. Done. Okay, so I've got my scripts lib folder on both Windows and the Mac. There it is. Okay, cool. Now, on command line, I need to initialize Bauer because I want to use Bauer as a way of creating a manifest for all the packages that I have in my project. So later on, if I'm sharing it with somebody else, right, they can go through and download the same packages for themselves. So they know exactly what the packages are. So there's actually 3 reasons that I can think of using Bauer. One, it's really easy once you know how to use it. Secondly, I want to share it with other people, right? And also when we go up online, from an updating perspective, I can always upgrade my versions to the latest version without going and downloading things again, right? So maintenance is easier with Bauer than it is by hand. Normally, I've been going by hand. I go to Jquery, download stuff by Jquery. Remember, we did all that stuff. I went to Font Awesome, downloaded everything by Font Awesome. I went to Bootstrap, downloaded this stuff from Jquery. Drove me crazy. It's enough. Imagine if we only have 3 packages. Imagine if I had 10, 20, right? It's too long, right? By the way, when you do a COMP125 emergency acknowledges, you'll have like 10, 20 of these packages to get, and it's too much. So how do I do it? I do this. Just like NPM, I go Bauer. This is inside my installation folder, right? Init is the first thing I need to do. Bauer init. So what it's going to do is going to pull up a little wizard and it says, hey, is this the name of your project? COMP125 lesson 5. In my case, I want you to lower it so it's all lowercase. So I'm going to say COMP125 lesson 5. For you, because you're doing your lab, my recommendation is you make your project called lab 3, right? So then this would be lab 3, like this, right? You can call it whatever you want, right? But everything should be lowercase. Press enter. Description. You can put a description or not. For now, I'm not going to. Main file. Don't put anything. Keywords. Don't put anything. Authors. Well, it automatically shows if it finds you, if your GitHub is properly installed, it'll find you as an author. If it doesn't find this, just leave it blank. Enter. License. MIT. Sure. Homepage. Enter. Set currently installed components as dependencies. Sure. There's nothing there. Add a commonly ignored files to ignore list. Sure. Would you like to mark this package as private? Leave it alone. And then, does it all look good? Sure it does. And if you notice what I did, I didn't change anything except for the name. And you can actually press enter, 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 enter all the way down. Right, I'm going to do it one more time. What does this do, this little wizard? What it does is it creates inside your folder a Bauer.json file, like this. And it keeps track of things like, hey, where's my Bauer component? I don't use Bauer components. I use scripts lib. There's where it is. So it says ignore this stuff when it comes to things that you're going to load up or with Bauer. Okay, it's a little manifest. That's all it does. And we need to prepare ourselves to load new modules with Bauer by doing this manifest first. So here are the steps so far. Download npm and node is make sure it works. Install Bauer with npm Bauer install -g, right? Then do a Bauer init inside your folder. All right, that's the third thing. I'm doing this for people who are watching the video in the future, right? And then once you've got Bauer installed, we can go to the next step. Let's do the Bauer installation here. Yeah, I'll update now. And hopefully it won't take too long to upload. Visual Studio Code actually updates fairly regularly. It's good to keep things up on, kind of up to date with Visual Studio Code because it has additional features and functionality, especially on the PC. There's tons of stuff that keeps happening. They want to make things more stable with Visual Studio Code if you're a Visual Studio Code user. If you're someone who's using Sublime or Atom as well, they come up with fairly, I don't care about release notes right now. Okay, so here we are. So I was saying Atom and they use fairly stable things. Also, notice down here it says cannot read file. I'm looking for an extension for a module. Just ignore this right now. And if you notice up here, I can do an extensions update. It asks me to install an extension for Visual Studio Code, right? C# Visual Studio Code, just in case I want to run C# here. It's okay, I can run the extension. And then it'll ask me to update. When I'm done this, once there's a click like this, if I click down here, it says, hey, restart now. Sure, let me restart again one more time. All right, once Visual Studio Code is restarted, just like I have right now, I want to open up my opening command prompt, which is going to show me this. So this is my lesson inside my command prompt, okay? Now I've got a long path here, so you're going to only see it over here. So I'm going to pull this over here so you can see what I'm doing. All right? And I'm going to do one of these, same as we did before. We're going to do a Bauer init, right? What it's going to do is going to ask me all kinds of questions, like, hey, do I want this as my name? The answer is no. I want to change this to lowercase, 125 dash less than 5 for me. Yours would be lab 3, my recommendation. And then just, you know what I said before, just enter, 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 enter. Don't worry about what it says. Done. All right, so you don't care. It just takes you accepting the defaults. Yay, good, clear. Now, what I want to do, here's the next step, and I'll do it on the Windows side first, okay? I want to install Jquery, all right, for the first time. Remember, Jquery is a dependency for Bootstrap, right? So we'll do this. Bauer, install Jquery, same kind of format as we use with NPM, minus minus save this time. And minus minus save, what it does, there's 2 ways you can do this, minus minus save or minus minus save minus dev. Minus minus save is a switch that we use to save the dependency inside your Bauer.json file to show the next user or the person who's using your code what dependencies, front-end dependencies you have for your project. So I'm going to press enter. What it's going to do is going to go out, grab the latest version of Jquery, 2.2.4 as you see here, and install it in the folder we told it to install it in, which is scripts.lib. That's where it's going to go. All right? We'll do it one more time so you guys can see it on the Mac side. Same thing, and it'll give you another chance to see it again too. So here it is. I'm here in my folder. I'm going to clear the screen, right? And then I'm going to do this same thing. Bauer install Jquery minus minus save. Okay, cool. So there it goes, grab Jquery. Let's do a Bootstrap as well. In fact, you can do Bootstrap and Font Awesome on the same line. Watch, this is the beautiful thing about Bauer. So go Bauer, install Bootstrap. And then also space, and then the other module I want, which is font-awesome. So both modules, and then minus minus save. So what I can do here is install as many modules as I want in a row, and then press enter. And what it'll do is it'll take those modules, grab them, and install them. Done. Remember how long it took us to do Bootstrap before? Woohoo! That was 2 seconds. Right? That's why we use Bootstrap or Bauer, because it's a quick way of creating a bunch of different 3 things. Dependencies. We know which our dependencies are in our project. So now if you notice here in my Bauer.json file, I have 3 dependencies for my project: Jquery, Bootstrap, and Font Awesome. And it tells me the versions that I'm using. So someone else can look through and say, Tom used 2.2.4 and 3.3.6 back then when he made this project. Maybe in the future it'll be other versions, right? So sometimes people have to step back to these versions here because things have changed, right? And if you're trying to do what I'm doing in a future video, you might, or a future time, and you're looking at these videos, you might go, oh yeah, he's using a previous version of Bootstrap and NPM than I am. Maybe I have to step back if I want to do what he's doing, right? Because things change so rapidly on the web. Like next week, maybe Jquery might go to 2.2.5. I'm saying, right? So is there going to be new features? Maybe, and it might be some breaking changes that stop what's happening here. Yes. There's something called latest. You can use Jquery latest, but we're not going to do that right now. Well, later on. Do what I'm doing right now. Monkey see, monkey do for now. Sorry to say it that way, but we do what we see, and then if we do, if you can do what I'm doing right now, that's miles. You're golden, and you can look it up on your own how to do the latest version, right? Because there is a way of doing it. There's an actual script to put in npm Bauer install and then Jquery latest as an example, or Jquery next is what it would be called. Okay, or something like that. So I'll do the same thing on the Windows side. I'll go Bauer. We already got Jquery, so I'll go Bauer install as an example, and then I'll put in the 2 that I want. So Bootstrap, make sure you spell it correctly, Bootstrap, and then also font-awesome, right? And then minus minus save at the end, right? So that way it saves everything, it stores everything inside your folders, right? So it'll go grab everything. Now, if this isn't working, sometimes what happens is the reason why it won't work here at school is because I'm using HTTPS for GitHub, right? And the school may not like that. So you have to change, if you Google it, it'll say, hey, how do I change so that I use HTTP instead of HTTPS to grab, to go to GitHub? And there's a change you can make in your scripts to make it so it's a default that when you use Bauer, it only uses HTTP instead of HTTPS, and then that'll solve your problem locally. Sometimes you have that problem at school because of ports that are blocked. All right, so we've got our files. Let me just do a clear here. And let's do a directory so you can see that I've got my files. And if I was to go to directory, also see, And if I was going to go to something like scripts, this is where all my files live now, right? So directory. You can see that I've got a lib folder. So I'm going to go cd lib, right? And then if I go to lib and do a directory, I can see that I've got Bootstrap, FontAwesome, and Jquery. And this is, I have to update my path now so that Bootstrap, FontAwesome, and Jquery are under scripts lib. I've got to do that in my project. Otherwise, my project won't work, right? Because you usually have, I had stuff in there in a different folder before, right? So let's take a look at that. And then if you look at lab 3, it tells you to do update your project links so that way it points to the new locations of where we just put everything, right? Okay, let's take a look. So if I go to scripts, you can see that I have lib folder here, and I have my Bootstrap, and under Bootstrap I have dist, and under dist I have CSS. Woo! Look at this big list of stuff, right? Remember what I did last time? I want to grab the bootstrap.min.css path by right-clicking and going copy path, right? And when I want to go into my index.html and all the other ones, contact, index, and projects, because we're updating everything about, I want to take my new link from my bootstrap.min.css, right? And I'm going to kind of copy in here like this. Now I know the links, but I'm going to show you how to do it. You just get rid of all the stuff before scripts. There you go. So scripts, lib, bootstrap, this, CSS, bootstrap.min. It's a longer path, right? But it's more versatile because if I ever upgrade to a latest version of Bootstrap, tomorrow it might be Bootstrap 4. It's coming out, by the way, very soon. Then all I have to do is install everything inside this folder, and we're good to go. Same thing with my FontAwesome, right? Notice that my theme, bootstrap-theme.min.css, is overridden. I'm going to put it back because I was using a custom theme here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the old theme back, right? Using a custom theme, obviously you can't do it this way. You have to download and replace the Bootstrap theme that we just how we did before with our own custom theme. It won't allow me to do custom themes. Actually, it might allow you to do custom themes. It's just I don't know which Bauer installation I need to do. Anyways, let's go into Bootstrap that theme. If you notice, if it's the same one as this one, the same path, I'm just going to grab this little path here, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to see it one more time. I'm going to kind of paste this one and just put a dash theme in here because that's going to give me my theme back the way it was before. FontAwesome, this link is no good too. This style sheet link. My link is okay because my link hasn't changed. This is my custom CSS. So let's change FontAwesome. So again, instead of Bootstrap, we're going to go to FontAwesome here in lib, and you're going to see the CSS. And then we're going to grab this, right-click, copy path, and we're going to put it in here. So we're going to update the path for our FontAwesome, right? And we're going to kill everything before the scripts folder, like this. So it should say scripts, lib, FontAwesome, CSS, FontAwesome, min.css. And what this is doing, again, is just grabbing everything from our new folders we use Bauer to get. Okay, we need 2 more changes. We've done the CSS, now we need to do the JavaScript on the bottom. So there's Jquery and there's Bootstrap. We're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go to Jquery first. So here's Jquery. I'm going to go to dist for that's what dist stands for, distribution. I'm going to go down to this one, right-click, copy the path, right, and replace the path for Jquery because that's important for us to do, and do all this over here. Save. One more time for Bootstrap. For the bootstrap.min.js, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go to Bootstrap. Instead of going to dist or to CSS, I'm going to go to JS. Here it is. And right-click on bootstrap.min.js, copy path, and replace this one with that one. And kill this anything before the scripts folder. Okay, cool. My first one has been updated, but I need to update the other ones. I need to update contact, about. All these ones have to be updated because now I've changed my folder structure, my project structure, right? Projects, all those have to be changed. So I might as well grab these links here and do them one at a time. So I'm going to grab all these, go into About, right? And anything underneath the CSS section, we're just going to copy and paste. There we go. And I'll do the same thing for Contact. There's no point, doing it too many things. And Projects, so that we all have all the same links in all of our project files, right? Because otherwise you're going to be off a little bit. There we go. And now back to index. And I'm also going to change these ones down here, the JavaScript ones. I'm just going to grab all of them. just to make sure. And I'm going to go to, again, to About, and go to the bottom for my About page and do the same thing here. So paste. See that they're updated now. And Contact. Now you might say, Tom, this is a lot of work to do. And if you do it later on, guess what? It gets worse and worse. If I had 10 more links, I would have to update them all everywhere, right? And that's why package bundlers are becoming so popular these days as well. We'll talk about that another day. But there's got to be a way to make it easier for us as developers. Let me just check them out. So that's done. Contact is done. About is done, right? I don't change app.js, and I don't change app.css because it's us. It's just our files, right? We're not downloading it. I'm not downloading my default files from Bauer, right? I'm just downloading from everywhere else. Okay, cool. That's on the Mac side, and I'm going to save all. So that's important for me to do, save all. So that way all of them are up to date. So all my files are up to date. Let's do it on the PC side now, just so you see it again, right? Because it's important for us to do. So I'm going to go up on Visual Studio Code here on the PC, and it's kind of the same thing. So I've got my index.html, right? I got to get my new paths. First of all, what I want to do is I want to get this back. I want to kind of do one of these. Right, here's the PC path, and I want to update these paths. Now, if you want to do it by hand, you can certainly do it by hand, but I find it just easier for me to go into scripts, lib, and if I go to Bootstrap first, because those are the ones I want, under dist, under CSS, I'm going to right-click, get to see the paths. I can open this up a little bit. I want to right-click bootstrap.in.css, copy it, the path, right? Go back to my index.html. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys to see it all. And what I want to do here is in the path, all I'm doing is replacing the current path that I have in there with my new path, right? And killing anything before the scripts folder, like this. All right, so I'll save that. And I'll just copy this piece here. Notice that here's a problem. On the PC, I have these backslashes, and on the Mac, I have these forward slashes. It's the same thing. Don't worry about it. Bootstrap or Visual Studio Code isn't going to really fret too much, right? If you're really a stickler, you can always go // doesn't really matter, right? Like it really should be // just let FYI, it should be this way, right? For full compatibility between PC, Mac, and sometimes even on the online with Azure. Azure's looking for // not backslashes, right? So that's just FYI, right? It looks for one of these, right? But it's very minor compared to all the stuff we have to do. So copy this, go to the next piece, paste, and dash theme is where it's going here. Dash theme. And now we're going to get Font Awesome. So we're going to go to the same thing. We're going to go to Font Awesome. I'm giving you another chance to see this because I know that I'm going fast. So it's just one more chance if you didn't catch it before to see it. So we're going to go to CSS. Again, I'm going to right-click, copy this whole link, copy the path. And I'm going to copy it in here. For those people who've already done it, please bear with me while I try and do it for everybody else who didn't see it fast enough. Because I'm faster than people because I know what to do and you guys don't. Not because for any other reason. And I want to just change these backslash to // for compatibility reasons only. Not because you have to, by the way. It's because I want to, and then I want to do it one time and I copy it from one folder to the next. It's all good, right? Notice how my content app.css doesn't change. Okay. Let's fix my JavaScript now on the bottom, just like I did last time. So again, instead of bootstrap.min, I need jQuery first. So let's go to jQuery, under dist. I've got my jQuery.min.js, copy that path, right? And then from here, what I want to do is I want to put this over here, Control-V, and get rid of all my scripts, for anything before my scripts, I mean. And change the backslash to // Again, not required. Just getting you to do it for compatibility with my stuff. And some places online, for example, on Linux machines, that kind of stuff doesn't make any sense when you're downloading a thing from Windows. Okay. Also, we need the bootstrap.min.js. So I'm going to go back to Bootstrap under dist. Instead of CSS, I'm going to choose the JS folder. I'm going to go into bootstrap.min.js, copy my path, and put it in there. Again, you can hand bomb this. You certainly can. And some people might prefer to do that because of all the copy pasting. But I find that hand bombing sometimes can lead to finger typing errors, user errors, and I don't want that. So instead of, I don't want to do even this, what I'm doing here, modifying the path by going, forward slash instead of backslashes, to me is a bad thing. And I can, by accident, kill something, and then a copy and paste there is even worse. Okay, so I've got all that. Now I want to fix my other files. Remember I talked about this earlier, so I'm going to grab all this, including my own, just to make it easy, copy. And now I'm going to go to my other files here. So here's so let's close all this up, collapse all my scripts, and go to my about, and just copy paste. And we're going to go to contact, copy paste. And we're going to go to projects. There, it's all done. Even if it's not exactly perfect, even if you're a stickler like me, you don't have to figure that out. Let's go back to index.html and grab my JavaScript. Again, this is required for your lab. So if you watch what I'm doing now, I'm recording it a couple times, right? You have an opportunity to fix your lab, get all that stuff done that's required before your lab is due, which is Friday, right? So why would you wait till Friday to do this all on your own when you can just do it here with me if you have access, if your installations are working properly? It's a good chance to do that. So I've got my 3 files. Okay, and now that I've updated about, contact, and project, because those are the other pages that I have, I'm going to go to File, again, Save All, and that's going to save all my project files. Okay, so I've got everything working, it seems. Let's test it. But we're going to test it with our new HTTP server. How do I do that, right? On the Mac, on the PC, what I want to do here is inside my folder, in the folder with where I'm at. So I'm going to go up a couple places. So I'm at the root of my project folder right here. I'm going to type in HTTP-server. If you've installed HTTP server properly with npm, you should be able to do this. What it's going to do is going to say, hey, I'm serving up the stuff here on this port. If I go to localhost 8080, so if I go to my Chrome here, and if I type in localhost, if I go 8080, like this, if I put the actual port in, come on, Tom, and press enter, you can see that it's going to serve up my pages. So I've got a little server. If you haven't installed localhost properly, it won't come up, right? You see that I've loaded up my pages here. This is what my pages look like, and I still get everything working. So it looks like everything is still in good order on the PC. Let's do it on the Mac, so you see it again. So on the Mac, it'd be the same thing. I pull up my, I'm in my project folder on the command prompt, right? So, or command line. So I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to go HTTP-server, and what it's going to do is going to run the server locally. And then what I can do is go up on GitHub, or sorry, on Chrome, and kind of type in localhost 8080 for the port, and it should pull up my stuff. So why is this different than double-clicking on the file? Because this is actually being served up by a little server that we have running locally, right? As opposed to just double-clicking and running it on, using the built-in command line tools. And sometimes what happens is you get more of a realistic, flow from this one than you would if you're doing something else. Now, obviously, we got to update this project. And before we take a break, I want to upload this, put it up on GitHub, and deploy it to Azure. Let's do it, right? So get you guys all ready to go. All right, so on the Mac side, I'm just going to do it on the Mac side. On the PC side, it'd be very similar because I don't want to make too many more repos, right? But on the Mac side, I'm going to pull up Visual Studio. And you notice that there's a couple of changes I need to make. README file says lesson 4. I want to change my readme.md file to lesson 5. You would say lab 3, right? And this isn't to demonstrate debugging techniques. This is to demonstrate BOM and all that stuff, right? Notice that the name of the game for this one is working with document object model, right? So and DHTML. So I'm going to copy this, and I want to upload or update my files for this. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to put that in here. So project to demonstrate, for, and it says and DHTML, right? See how it says it goes back to normal here. And what I want to do is I want to kind of put this also in hashtags to make that an H2 equivalent. And if I think it's too much, like if it's going too much outside the page, I may want to reformat this just a touch. Copy this, cut. So that way, it's taking over a couple lines. I guess that's lesson 5. Then I want to change my other stuff too. So, for example, my index.html says the same thing. If you look at my h1 tag inside the body of my container, I want to change this so that it says what I'm working on. Oh, tom, haha, copy. I'm working with a mouse today. Normally, I forgot my mouse at home. Okay, and then this would be lesson 5. Might be okay. I'll leave it the way it is right now. Save. So I've got this. This is the thing that's changing here. So this is lesson 5. And even in my title tag, you may want to change that. It says home right now. That's okay. But those are the things I need to change for my project. I don't think I have them anywhere else. And I want to upload this to GitHub. First, let's create, if you have GitHub working, I can initialize my Git repository here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add all this to the staging area, and I'm going to do my initial commit. There it is. Oops. And then click this check mark. I can't do any of this because I need to create a remote. And I do that by going to GitHub. So I'm going to go to GitHub. And I'm going to go to Centennial. And I'm going to create a new repository for this lesson for this week. It's going to be called COMP125 lesson 5, right? Create my repository. Grab this. And I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code's command line. This is the server. It shows you the server. This is all the server comments because the server's been running in my command line, right? So it tells me every time I do something, it tells me what's happening on the server. It gives me feedback on what's going on. I don't need this right now. I'm going to stop the server by Control-C, clear the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those commands in place. Oops, undo. I meant tom. When I say tom, you know what that means? It means tom. It's early in the day. I meant to get these two things. Sorry. And paste. Yeah, paste. Press enter. And what it's going to do is going to upload my everything to the server for the first time, the GitHub server. I can refresh. You can see that I have everything up there now. Okay, cool. Got GitHub. Let's do Azure. So portal.azure.com. Yes. Yes. So here's my portal, and if I go new for that particular one, yes. And if I go web and mobile, I'm going to create a new web app, and we're going to call this COMP125 Summer 2016 Lesson 5. Okay, no one took it yet. And I'm going to use my existing Canada East and pin this to the dashboard and click go ahead. It's going to go there, do its little dance, create my little server up there. And this is another test. I'm testing it twice now. I've tested it locally, so I know it works. I want to test it remotely on Azure to make sure that my changes with Bauer went through. Here's something I don't want to do because of Azure. I do not want to include Bauer or my scripts lib inside my gitignore files. I want my whole files to go up on Azure. Some cloud providers recognize Bauer as a package manager, and you can actually not upload all your packages, your standard jQuery and everything else, up on GitHub, and it'll still function because it'll download and create your package for you online, like what we're going to do now, right? But not so with Visual Studio and Azure. So I'm going to go to publishing. I'm going to go to deployment source like we did before. I'm going to click my GitHub as a source. Click my, I don't want performance tests. I want to click my Centennial over here and my project, which would be the last one, lesson 5, COMP125, and press OK. What this does, again, is it grabs the files from GitHub and throws them into the container that is our web app. You guys have done this lots of times. Now, you'll be required to do this for your exam, which is coming up in 2 weeks, your test, right? You'll have to do a GitHub. You'll have to do a portal or go to portalazure.com. So if you don't have Azure working, or if you can't do this with your local school account, as an example, you can't use your tools to FTP. Like, for example, FileZilla. If you don't know how to use FileZilla to FTP to a local school account, you won't be able to give me a live site, and that's part of your requirement for your test, right? I'm going to the trash here while I'm waiting. And now notice that it's still doing its thing, right? I mean, yes, I could click on this thing up here, right? And if I go to my little project, probably it's deployed, right? But what do I like to do? I like to wait, right? I like to wait for Azure to finish its deployment dance. And it should give me some deployment information over here. And again, if it doesn't show you, sometimes what you might opt to do is go to deployment source and see that the deployment dance is still happening. When I see my check mark here, then I know things have deployed properly. And if I click on this link here, what it'll do is it'll run the deployment site up here. So you can see that this is working now because this is the new title. It's a little long. I have to probably change this a little bit, but or because maybe break it up over 2 lines or something. But this is the title, right? Notice that I'm using the default, my defaults for my project, right? So I didn't change the color to black like inverse. I used navbar -default here. Questions around Bauer? This is one which is due Friday, right? So if I was gonna just a recap, Bauer is a package manager. It grabs everything that you need for front-end technologies, jQuery, Bootstrap, Font Awesome. It grabs it all from the web for you, so you don't have to go there and search to see where the web is, download it by hand, drag and drop files into your position, all that stuff. You don't have to do that. When you use Bauer, it does it all that stuff for you. And also, we also talked about NPM and Node. I'm not getting you to make a Node site. That's out of scope for this course. But it's really great to have Node and NPM working locally because most modern web packages, when you're working on the command line, a lot of times you'll see examples online that use Node to download stuff into your web project. And so if you've never seen it before, it would be my disservice to you not to show you how to do it, because you're going to go up online and say, oh man, everywhere I go it says Node, 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 Node. What is this Node that we're talking about? Node, again, is using JavaScript on the back end. And what we're doing here with your files is creating a location or a little application that's running in the background on your command prompt whenever you need it. And we use NPM, which is linked to Node. And Node, it's called the Node Package Manager. It can grab files that you need. So if I go Node or NPM, it can grab files that I need to install within my application. Now remember, there's 2 ways to grab front-end dependencies. One way is through Bauer. You can actually do it with Node too. But Node is really for when we use Node and NPM for things like creating websites completely, right? And what I want you guys to do is think about NPM as a way of packaging things together for a back-end server, or if you're creating a service. We're not doing that right now, right? So that's why I'm using Bauer as the front end. Questions around this stuff? 1/2 of your stuff that's due for Lab 3, it's a new technology that I'm getting you to learn, and we're doing it now. It's going to complement what we're going to be doing in the future in our course, right? So that's why I'm asking you to do it today. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do some of the other stuff that we need to do. All right?